What's good, sports fans? Are you ready to elevate your live entertainment experience? Well, let me introduce you to SeatGeek, an amazing platform that connects you to your favorite events while saving you money. With SeatGeek, you can easily find tickets for sports games, concerts, and so much more, all in one place. The interface is user-friendly, making it simple to browse and compare prices. And one of the best features is the interactive seating chart. You can see exactly where you'll be sitting and how much you'll be spending, ensuring you get the best value for your money. But here's the best part. Check this out. By using my promo code, ChalkItUpSports, you can enjoy a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. That's right, $20 off your first SeatGeek order. Imagine catching that thrilling game or concert without breaking the bank. It's a win-win situation. Plus, you'll be a part of a community of fans who eat, sleep, and breathe live events just as much as you do. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description to download the SeatGeek app today. And don't forget to use my promo code ChalkItUpSports for a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. Get excited. Now let's get back to the show. Let's get to the content, y'all. You know what to do. Kick your feet up, get comfortable, smash that like button. You know what to do. Let's get into it. Your Philadelphia Eagles made a roster move today that, I don't know, maybe some of us saw coming, maybe some of us didn't, but we knew something was off. That's the one thing that was consistent throughout the whole process. And the Philadelphia Eagles are always going to remain to be the gift that keeps on giving. The Philadelphia Eagles decided to move on from Devin White. Now, this situation is very interesting because the Eagles signed Devin White. They signed Devin White over the course of the offseason. He was amongst that group of signings that included, Zach Bond, Paris Campbell, Devontae Parker. The list goes on. The Eagles kind of went on like a free agent spree, just picking up, cheap signings, low risk, high reward signings. And Devin White was a part of that process. Now, throughout the offseason, throughout mandatory minicamp and training camp and things of that nature, the preseason even, Devin White was or at least we thought, he was the leading linebacker. He took all the first team reps. He spent more time on the field as a first teamer than Nakobe Dean did throughout the offseason. And we thought he especially had the job locked down when he wasn't really playing too many preseason snaps. I mean, he played some in that first preseason game, maybe some in the second, but Devin White didn't really play as many preseason snaps as Nakobe Dean did. So typically, historically, when you see something like that, the trends indicate that that player is going to be a starter. He's a player you value. You want to protect him. But the season starts, and Devin White doesn't make the trip to Brazil. And we thought it was because of his ankle injury. It came down on the docket that Devin White was dealing with the ankle injury, so he will be sitting out week 1. Therefore, we will be seeing Nakobe Dean start. And I know our expectations have been very up and down when it comes to Nakobe Dean. Some of us have been very critical of Nakobe Dean. Some of us have been very passive when it comes to Nakobe Dean. Regardless, though, Nakobe Dean was the starter for week 1, mainly because we thought the injury kept Devin White out. And then on top of the injury, there was a report that Nakobe Dean was always supposed to be the starter. And that threw us all for a loop. That was the most confusing part about all of this, because we said to ourselves, hold on, the trends, every decision you've made up until this point indicated that Devin White was the starter. Since when did you guys have this epiphany or this come to Jesus moment and say to yourselves, okay, Nakobe Dean is the starter now? So that was a situation that was wonky in and of itself, and it confused us. So from that point forward, we saw Nakobe Dean as the starting Mike linebacker playing next to Zach Bond. And him and Zach Bond, if I had to give them a grade for how they played together on the season, I would probably give Zach Bond a B+ for how he's played throughout this season. I'd probably give Nakobe Dean maybe a C+, maybe a B-. That Buccaneers game was really bad for Nakobe Dean. Prior to that, I felt like Nakobe has been pretty solid. But that Buccaneers game just kind of reminded us of his limitations, and he missed the most tackles in that game as well. So he doesn't really have his stock isn't going up right now. Nakobe Dean, if anything, his stock has plateaued because of that Buccaneers game. But nonetheless, that the Nakobe Dean Zach Bond combo was decent. To be fair, to be modest about it, I think all of us felt like sure they can improve, they can play better, but we were all fairly shocked by Zach Bond's contributions, and we were even mildly pleased with Nakobe Dean's contributions. So we kind of thought to ourselves, okay, all right, maybe they got the right guy on the football field. But then to take it a step further, we thought to ourselves, hold on, wait. It's one thing for Nakobe Dean to have won the job and taken it from Devin White, but Devin White is a healthy scratch, not just for week 2, but week 3 and week 4. Week 4, where he has an opportunity to go up against his former team and get some kind of revenge, a game that you know for a fact he would be motivated to play in. You may get the best version of him in that game, and you still don't play him. As a matter of fact, he's a healthy scratch. Like I said, that was the most confusing thing about the Devin White saga, right? Not just the fact that he lost the job all of a sudden, but now he's a healthy scratch. You mean to tell me you couldn't find any value for him? Now, word is that he's a guy that refused to play special teams. He felt like, look, I deserve to be on that football field. I deserve to play defense. I'm not a special teamer. And when you don't play ball like that, when you're not flexible in that regard, a team doesn't see the value for you anymore. I mean, they gave him a 1-year deal, $4 million. The Eagles can sneeze that away. But again, it's just one of those situations where you're left confused. You're left confused. I don't understand why bring in the player, why string the player along. What went wrong between Devin White and this team? Or Vic Fangio, or Harry Roseman, or Bobby King, or Jeremiah. What went wrong between Nakobe? What went wrong between Devin White and this coaching staff? That's the question that we might not get an answer to, but clearly there was a differencing of opinion. Nonetheless, now your linebackers are Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Oren Burks, Ben Van Sumeren. No more Devin White. That's done. So, it was a signing that we all were intrigued with. We were excited about. We felt like it was a low risk, high reward signing. I think we all agreed with that. If you get something out of it, cool. If you don't, hey, 1 year, $4 million. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, man. Yeah, man. I have a hard time figuring out where they're going personnel wise with this team. What are you making room for? It all remains to be seen. I don't know. Are you that high on Ben Van Sumeren? Are you higher on Jeremiah Trotter Jr. than Devin White right now? You drafted Jeremiah Trotter Jr., so that may be something, but I mean, we didn't even get a chance to see him play. He wasn't even given the chance on the football field. That's alarming to me. I don't know what to make of that. That's frustrating. I would have loved to have seen at least seen what he can do with this team. Especially saw what we saw from Nakobe Dean in the Buccaneers game. I don't know. It's something that we're going to continue to monitor. It's something that still gives me cause to pause. But at this point, it is what it is. So make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. Let me get some of y'all opinions on this thing. So Mob says, shaking my head. Kyrie Gary says, I can't believe they released Devin White. Nakobe Dean has not played that well. Thus, this better not be Howie forcing Fangio to play Dean because he's a draft pick. I think White is a better player than Dean. The sad thing is, we'll never know. We'll never know because we didn't see him play on this football field or on this football team. We didn't get a chance to. So we won't even really be able to make that determination. That's what's more frustrating about it to me, right? That we were robbed of that experience. We were robbed of that perspective. Now we're going to always wonder what if. That's the frustrating part for me. That's the frustrating part for me. And look, he wasn't. My man Ace Boogie posted here. He says Devin White didn't look that good in preseason though. I think that's the reason. I mean, nobody was spectacular, but there were people who gave you flashes. To your point, Ace Boogie, Devin White didn't really jump off the screen in preseason either. So you're kind of right. He didn't really flash. Nakobe Dean flashed more than him in the preseason, but they gave Nakobe Dean a lot of the snaps. So Chaotic Green says Devin White was released to make space for Sidney Brown or Bradbury. Well, I know it ain't Bradbury because he's still dealing with that injury. It's not Bradbury. Maybe Sidney Brown. It could be that. It could be Sidney Brown. That's a higher possibility. Brian Stetcher, what's going on, my friend? He says Buccaneers got rid of Devin White for a reason. Yeah, but we also signed him. So we still have to ask the question, why was he released? What was it that he wasn't showing you? What was it that was so egregious? Infamous says, shout out to my man Infamous. He says, Tone, if y'all lose to the Browns, you won't hear the end of it from me. Bro, if we lose to the Browns, you won't hear the end of it from me. What you mean? You're not going to hear the end of it from me. Mr. Ralph Lauren, what's going on? He said, oh, well, no. He'll be picked up and find himself on the field. Well, that part too. That part, right? If we see him making plays for another team, then we'll find out for sure. Good point, Ralph Lauren. Good point. Welly Well says they released Devin White before Huff. Well, you got a lot more money tied up in Devin White. I mean in Bryce Huff. You got a lot more money tied up in Bryce Huff. That's not such a simple cut. So that's that. Mod X Mike, what's going on? He says, I can't understand what the F these guys are doing. At least give the guy a chance to play. I would have loved to have seen him play at least. I would have loved to have seen him do something for you. At least put him on the field so I can say without a doubt, okay, he's bad, right? Let him do something stupid before you fire him. But again, they clearly know something we don't. We're not gonna get to the bottom of it unless the player speaks on it on like a podcast or something, or he does a tell-all with some whatever reporter. You never know. Ray Lester says Devin White was only one of 3 Eagles that had a ring. Now we're down to 2. I mean, he didn't get that ring with us, so I don't really care about that. But if you're talking about just having that experience and being able to carry that with you, yeah, I guess there's some value in that for sure. There's some value in that. Green Wingman. He says, I can only go by his time with the Bucs. Man was a Super Bowl player to not man went from being a Super Bowl player to not playing in his last years in the playoffs. Yeah, man. Yeah. It was strange. The fall for Devin White. It's something that requires studying. I'll tell you that much. Theodore Nicholas says another Howie Blowsman move, Devin White. Well, here's the thing, man. We knew Howie likely would go cheap at linebacker. And I always respect the swing. Right? I always respect a GM or whoever is a decision maker. I always respect you taking a risk. But here's the part about it, right? We didn't really get to see the risk really take shape. It was almost like he got out of the casino before the numbers came off the board. You know what I mean? Like it was almost like we didn't get the opportunity to see the bet fall through or not. But I guess one could argue it's a failed bet if you pulled out before you found out what the result was. Ace Boogie says, I thought Howie was going to package him in Rodgers for an edge rusher. You guys talked about that a lot. Let's see. My man Infamous says, we still accepting Commanders fan applications if you want to watch some good football. Hey, listen, man, be humble, man. Just as quickly as you get it, it can be snatched away from you. Be humble. Just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Be humble. All right, let's see what we got here. All right. Can somebody time out these weirdos? Somebody time out these weirdos, man. All right, let me get to the first super chat. My man Oz with the $1.99 super chat. He says Robert Saleh to help our defense. Nah, no. I've seen one too many tweets about Robert Saleh potentially helping the Eagles defense. No. Stop doing that, you guys. We need this. We need to see the result pan out. It's just that simple. Just because something is rough right now, you don't pull the ripcord and just say, I'm abandoning ship. This is what went wrong last year. We didn't rock out with who we had, and we made the situation worse. Didn't we learn from last year? Did we not learn from last year? I'm not saying Sean Desai was perfect. I'm not saying he was even good at his job. But to overcorrect us, talk about making the situation already a bad situation worse. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say. I've seen one too many tweets about, oh yeah, the Eagles should consider consulting with Robert Saleh or bringing Robert Saleh in to help the defense. Well, then why'd you bring in Vic Fangio? That would be a clear case of undermining your previous signing. Once again, live in the courage of your convictions. Can't keep erasing stuff if you feel like you made a mistake. Eventually, the paper going rip. Like this is not a video game where you just plug and play and just, hey, fire this guy, hire this guy. It's not no damn video game, y'all. Come on, man. Come on. All right. Let me tackle this Robert Saleh situation too, because that's something I want to talk about with you guys. Because I think it correlates to the Philadelphia Eagles situation. But before I do so, just want to give you guys a quick injury report update. So AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Lane Johnson, they are expected to be back for the Week 6 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. They are expected to be back, and the Eagles desperately need all three of those guys back for sure. Fred Johnson didn't really have a good game against the Buccaneers, and obviously without AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Lane Johnson, the offense just doesn't flow the same. It's the reality. The offense doesn't flow the same. Jalen Hurts doesn't have the same level of trust or chemistry with the other guys out there. So we need AJ Brown and Devontae Smith back ASAP. And then on top of that, Sidney Brown and Anaya Smith, their practice windows have been officially activated. They're no longer on the PUP list. So the Eagles now have, I believe, 3 weeks. They have 21 days to decide whether or not they're going to activate those gentlemen to the active roster. Otherwise, if they don't, they're going to have to be out for the remainder of the season. Now, obviously, the Eagles have already dealt with injury on at the wide receiver position. Brent Covey is out for, I believe, 4 to 6 weeks with a shoulder injury. And you already were without AJ Brown and Devontae Smith for a period of this season. I fully expect Anaya Smith to be activated at some point to this roster to prevent him from being eliminated for the entire season altogether. And then I expect Sidney Brown. To be back. I'm not sure in what capacity, though. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw him out there on special teams, just to get him going. I don't know if his role on this defense is going to be as big as we probably would like it to be. You still have guys like CJ, GJ, and Reed Blankenship back there playing safety, and I don't think they've been terrible. Reed Blankenship already has 2 interceptions on the season. CJ, GJ could stand to play better for sure. He's given up some touchdowns, but I don't see the Philadelphia Eagles making any changes at safety. If anything, you may see Sidney Brown maybe come on the field and due to an injury, you may see him come on the field in different packages, but he still has a lot of football to catch up on. But you'll likely see Sidney Brown on special teams, and you may see Anaya Smith on special teams as well. You never know. We'll see. So yes, we've gone through the injury update. We've gone through the roster update with the Eagles releasing Devin White. We've gotten into that. And we briefly touched on Robert Saleh's firing from the New York Jets. I want to tap into that because I think that correlates to the Philadelphia Eagles situation. Robert Saleh, along with Nick Sirianni, they were a part of that 2021 head coaching hiring cycle. Other guys that were hired was Arthur Smith. He was hired by the Falcons, recently fired. Brandon Staley was hired by the Chargers. He was fired, replaced by John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh. I always get them mixed up. Dan Campbell was also hired. Nick Sirianni, Robert Saleh. Those were the guys. Those were the guys. So Arthur Smith, Brandon Staley, Dan Campbell, Robert Saleh, Nick Sirianni. Those were, I believe, those were the five. Those were the five signings in the 2021 head coaching hiring cycle. And so far, Arthur Smith has been fired, Brandon Staley's been fired, and now Robert Saleh has been fired. So that leaves Nick Sirianni and Robert Saleh. That leaves Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell as the only two head coaches remaining from their hiring cycle in 2021. And Dan Campbell clearly is looking like the better coach out of the remaining two. He's looking like the better coach out of all of them. But out of the guys who still have their jobs, Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell, he's clearly the better head coach. He clearly has the pulse of his team. He knows how to get the best out of his team. He knows how to have these guys ready to play on the season. It's just that simple. Can he be a little bit overly aggressive? Can he be a little bit reckless at times? Sure, but Dan Campbell is a better head coach than Nick Sirianni. I can't argue about that. That's a grown man in the room. Whereas though Nick Sirianni, he's on the verge of losing his football team. Nick Sirianni is on the verge of losing his football team. So that's the clear difference between Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni. One guy has the pulse of his organization. One guy has turned an organization around, has pushed them from the depths of Hades, NFL Hades, and have helped them rise to being one of the better teams, one of the more respected teams in the league right now. Nick Sirianni inherited a respected organization, and he did help this team go from being a 4-11-1 team to being a playoff team, a perennial playoff team. But over the past 22 football games, over the past 23 football games, the Philadelphia Eagles have not been a good football team. They have not responded well to Nick Sirianni. And Nick Sirianni, based off of that 10-1 collapse and how the season has started so far and how his in-game decision-making has been questionable, he's on the verge of losing his job. So when you factor all that into the Robert Saleh situation, the Jets fired Robert Saleh after a 2-3 start. The Philadelphia Eagles are currently 2-2. I told y'all a while back, the Philadelphia Eagles would fire Nick Sirianni before they missed the playoffs. And so much still has to be determined. So much football still left to be played. But if the Philadelphia Eagles lose to the Browns, if they lose to the Jaguars or the Giants, you're going to see Nick Sirianni get fired. This next 4-game stretch is going to define the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. So Nick Sirianni should be on high alert. Again, you got the Browns. Then you got the Giants. Then you got Cincinnati. Then you got Jacksonville. Cincinnati is clearly the most talented team out of those 4 teams. And Cincinnati, even though they're 1-4, Cincinnati has been very competitive in their last handful of games. They put pressure on teams in 4 straight games, but they just haven't been able to win them. They got beat by the Chiefs. They got beat by the Commanders. They got beat by the Ravens. They beat the Panthers in their last 4 games. So their offense has started to put up points, but the defense hasn't been able to stop anybody. So that Bengals team can put it on the Philadelphia Eagles when they meet. Can the Eagles offense hang with the Bengals offense right now? We're going to find out. But again, you have the Browns, the Giants, the Bengals, and then the Jaguars over the next 4 weeks. If Nick Sirianni delivers anything less than 3-1, you may see that man get fired. You may see Nick Sirianni get fired if that man delivers anything less than 3-1. Again, seeing the way and also look, the Jets are an impulsive organization. The Jets are an organization that has a hard time seeing the forest from the trees. And the Philadelphia Eagles have made impulsive decisions in the past. We're coming off of a season where they made a couple impulsive decisions, right? Firing Sean Desai, elevating Matt Patricia, all those kind of things, right? We've seen the Eagles make an impulsive decision before, and they could have fired Nick Sirianni at the last season, and no one would have argued with him. No one would have batted an eye. No one would have looked at the Eagles and said, "You're insane," if they would have fired Nick Sirianni at the end of the season. I was one of the people that said, give Nick Sirianni one more year. Let's see what happens. Now I'm at the point where I'm ready to move on from the gentleman. Now, again, I don't know how the Philadelphia Eagles are gauging this. I don't know where their threshold is. At what point will they get to the point of no return? Will it be a loss to the Browns? Will it be back-to-back losses to the Browns and the Giants? What will it take for the Philadelphia Eagles to move on from Nick Sirianni? And I'm not even saying that's what I want right now, because mid-season fires are really hard to bounce back from. Mid-season fires are not easy to rally your team around. They're not easy to do. Unless the previous guy that was in the building was so hated, so disliked, that the team just gets reinvigorated by him not being in the building. But they have to be careful how they approach it. As much as I want to move on from Nick Sirianni, will that hurt you more than it will help you? And again, what will it take for them to move on from Nick Sirianni? Back-to-back losses to the Browns and Giants? I think that'll do it. That would do it. You lose to the Browns and the Giants back-to-back weeks, that'll do it for sure. So we'll see. We'll see. But this Browns matchup, it doesn't get any better than this. These next 4 weeks don't get any better than this. If you can find a way to run the table these next 4 weeks and improve from 2-2 to a 6-2 record, and again, that may be overzealous based off of the way this team's been playing lately. But if you can improve to 6-2, I'll even give you 5-3. If you can improve to 5-3 at worst, 6-2 at best, okay, we can get behind something, right? We can roll with that. Especially when you're going against 4 opponents that have a combined record of 5-18. Between the Browns, between the Giants, Jaguars, and the Bengals, those 4 teams, they have a combined record of 5-15. Those are not good football teams. Those football teams are not responding to their coaching. Whatever maybe they're dealing with injuries, maybe they're dealing with ineptitude at the quarterback position, whatever it is they're dealing with. Those 4 teams can be had. They're vulnerable. But so are the Philadelphia Eagles. That's why it's so important to take this week by week, and you want to get that win over the Cleveland Browns. You want to be able to dominate those football games. That's what we need to see. We don't need to see you just getting out of these games by the skin of your teeth against teams that are clearly not good, not well led. You need to dominate these opponents. Deshaun Watson and the Browns, they are spiraling. Injuries are piling up. Now, granted, Nick Chubb could be coming back this week. That could be a problem for the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of their run defense. But, again, you're going against 4 teams with a combined record of 5-15. The Cleveland Browns have been awful. Deshaun Watson has been awful. He's been sacked well over 20 times on the season. That offensive line is a mass unit right now. They're not getting any quality play from their weapons outside of Amari Cooper and sometimes David Njoku. And it's not really their fault. The quarterback can't play right now. So this is an opponent that you should have no problem game planning for. You know how they're going to attack you defensively. You know how they're going to attack you offensively. You know what your weaknesses are. The Browns' game plan is so obvious that if the Eagles lose this game, somebody should be fired. Their quarterback is struggling. So therefore, they're going to do everything possible to try to keep the ball out of his hands. They want to try to keep him from having to throw the ball downfield. They don't want to get they don't want to get down big early. So they're going to run the football. They're going to try to limit possessions. They're going to be kicking a lot of field goals if you let them. They're going to take the points. They're not going to overcomplicate this game plan because they know how bad their quarterback has been. They're going to try to make it as easy as possible. They're going to give him easy reads, easy throws. They might take a page out of the Buccaneers book and the Atlanta Falcons book. They're going to run the football at you. They're going to keep the passes short. They're going to be throwing a lot of screens, a lot of slants, a lot of curl routes, a lot of out routes, a lot of throws to the flat. Deshaun Watson's not going to be throwing that ball over the middle like that. They're going to run the ball and try to force you to play sideline to sideline because they're looking at that film, Philadelphia. The Cleveland Browns are looking at that Buccaneers film that the Eagles put up. And you know what they're saying to themselves? Hey, listen, this is a get-right game for us. We can get back on track. You feel what I'm saying? Just as much as the Browns are struggling, the Eagles got their own struggles too. So the Browns are looking at this as a game that they can get back on track as well. So the Eagles can't go in that game lacking. That's a fact. That's a fact. Do not think the Browns are just going to lay down. They struggling, but the Eagles struggling too. Believe that. Believe that. You know what they're going to. You know what they're going to do. We know the game plan. Is Nick Sirianni and his staff, are they competent enough? Are they competent enough? If I'm Big Fangio, 5-man front. Deshaun Watson, you got to beat me, brother. I'm going to force Deshaun Watson to throw that ball if I'm the Eagles. 5-man front, turn Deshaun Watson into a decision maker. Simple as that. Turn him into a decision maker. And so far, he hasn't been a good decision maker. That may be the same logic for the Browns. Jalen Hurts has not been a good decision maker on the season so far. So if I'm the Browns, I'm going to do everything possible to force Jalen Hurts to his right. I'm going to blitz him relentlessly. I'm going to force him to make a bad decision because he's good to give me one. So far in the season, Jalen Hurts has been good to give the defense one. So if I'm the Browns, I'm attacking Jalen Hurts. I'm going to be relentless. I'm going to be more physical. I'm going to punk you, and I'm going to force you to make a decision. I'm going to force your quarterback into a bonehead decision. So far, Jalen Hurts has been good for that. So the game plan is out there for both of these teams. Who's going to execute best? Who's going to out execute? Who's going to out execute the other? Because again, you want to restore confidence in this game. This isn't just about winning football games. You need to restore confidence. You don't restore confidence by beating the Browns by 3. You need to beat the Browns by 14 points minimum. In my opinion, I need you to beat the Browns 28-14 or some shit. 31-13, something. I need you to dominate the Browns. They're not a good football team right now.